All right, so the year is 1491 by Dale reckoning, and so far it's been a pretty eventful year on the Sword Coast. In local news, an avatar of the drow goddess Elestrea, who's been missing for more than a century, has been reportedly sighted communing with clerics within the walls of the fabled city of Waterdeep. Elsewhere, agents of all five of the major factions were dispatched to the Desserin Valley to investigate the claims of dangerous cult activity. A prominent noble from Baldur's Gate was discovered to be an evil necromancer and was slain by a band of adventurers. And three young travelers trying to find their way in the world have fallen upon hard times in the once grand city of Neverwinter. Dax. Let's see. You're a far traveler. You're far from your home. You've been all over the world. Came from probably a more prosperous background than you've experienced the last couple of weeks. What brings you to the point where you're in the city of Neverwinter down to your last penny, wondering where your next meal's going to come from?
Really, it's been from so much exposure to different things. It's
Similar, yeah.
it's really just been something where he's kind of leaving the known. He couldn't take, like, so many people were so affluent when he where he came from. So to kind of have that time to explore and really get to something it's so different from kind of where he's been. He's pretty excited to kind of get to Neverwinter, really explore something he's not seen yet.
Well, so far your experience in Neverwinter has maybe been a little bit less than you expected it to be. It's been over 40 years since the volcano, Mount Hotenau, blew its top and devastated most of the city. But from when you came into the city, you've been here for almost a 10-day, and you found everything to be extremely expensive, extremely hard to come by. You had a fair amount of cash in your pocket when you came in to town, but either through robbery or expenses, you find yourself falling upon hard times. And through your wanderings, through your wanderings, you have heard rumor. You're wandering through the Tower District. You heard rumor that the Lord's Alliance in Protector's Enclave is offering employment for those who are willing to take on some hard work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always willing to learn something new, so I'd definitely be heading over that way.
So as you head through the city towards Protector's Enclave, it's the Festival of Greengrass. It's what we would consider to be spring. It's a festival of growth, renewal, rebirth. Different people throughout the city are celebrating in different ways. Most people that you see carrying weapons on them, which is very common throughout the city, have in some way wrapped their weapons either in ribbons or covered them with flowers, just to indicate that it's a time of peace and hope. As you work your way into Protector's Enclave and you start asking directions towards the Lord's Alliance headquarters where you hope to find some work, you pass through a carnival that's in full swing for the Festival of Greengrass. You push your way through the crowd. You see that there's a menagerie of all kinds of exotic animals, many of which you've seen before, and some you're surprised to note that you have not. There are jugglers, dancers, acrobats. You notice it looks like an old Vistani wagon with an aged fortune teller trying to draw people in to have their fortune told. As you walk through the carnival and you get through to some of the more quieter streets and you approach the Lord's Alliance, and you enter their stately headquarters. And inside, at the counter, you see a balding man, muscular, devastatingly handsome, standing in line. And he appears to be there for the same purpose as you, looking for work.
I want to kind of slide up alongside. You said what's he actually standing at right now?
As you walk in, there's a lobby. It's kind of an open lobby with benches to the right and left, and basically it looks like a service counter, and this man is standing up against the counter. There's a man behind the counter dressed in not necessarily military attire, but definitely very sharp, professional-looking attire, and the two are having a conversation.
I want to just kind of like walk up to the counter, maybe like 2 feet to the left of them, and then just like slide in, elbow on the counter, being like, "Get a load of that spring weather."
All right. As you stroll in, The man that's behind the counter looks at you, and he says, "Greetings, traveler. My name is Red Knife Bellandare. If you're here for the assistance of the Lord's Alliance, you can call me Bellandare. If you're here hoping to serve the Alliance and make some money, you can call me by my title, and that's Red Knife. In that case, you can sit on the bench right there and wait your turn."
I kind of take like a not sarcastic, but just ever so flippant, like a little bow, and I like back up to that bench.
All right, so he turns his attention briefly away from you, and he looks at the man that's standing in front of him, and he goes, "Let's get this finished up, O'Neill, and you can start making your money." So O'Neill, you're a soldier. You've left your home. You've fought in many battles. You've served many masters. You've made some money. You've lost a lot of money. You've killed. You've been wounded. In short, you have seen some shit, and you also find yourself here in Neverwinter under some difficult circumstances. You're running low on coin, and you're here at the Lord's Alliance just trying to do what you can to make a little bit of extra money. So what brings you to this point? It's a man of many words. The man behind. You're here at the Lord's Alliance. You heard that. You heard that they're offering money to adventurers who are willing to take on some work.
All right, so I asked the man behind the counter what kind of work he has and what he's paying for it.
Okay, he sighs and he says, "We've been over this, O'Neill. Good thing it looks like you have more muscles than brains. The contract we're offering is clear. The Rockseeker Mining League just needs good, strong people to escort their supply wagons from here to the town of Phandalin. It's about a week's ride to the east. I need a team of 4. Looks like I got 2 here in front of me, and I got another one waiting out back. So if all goes well and I get a full team tonight, you guys can leave in the morning. Pays 25 gold upon acceptance of the contract, and you receive another 25 at your destination."
I accept.
All right, Dax, you overheard that. So do you have any?
I just want to put my hand in the air and be like, "I'll accept that one too. I've heard enough, and I'm in."
Okay, he refers to himself as Red Knife, standing behind the counter. Shuffles through. He pulls out some papers and he pushes them in front of you. He said, "If you're both interested in taking this job, if you're returning to Neverwinter, you can expect this to be about a 2-week turnaround. You'll get your initial gold in the morning before you leave, and you will be paid when the delivery makes a successful arrival at Phandalin. Do you accept these terms?"
I do.
Yes.
All right, he pushes the paper in front of you, and he gives you each a quill and asks you to scrawl your name on the contracts.
I sign it with a big flourish.
I sign it with just an X.
All right, Red Knife pulls the contracts back for himself. He says, "Welcome to the Lord's Alignment, cloaks." And he steps back away from the counter and he kicks open a panel beside him, and a door opens that leads to a back room inside the lobby, and he ushers you inside.
I let O'Neill go first.
All right. I walk in and take a look around.
All right, you stroll in, and it looks to be like a very small tavern area of an inn. There appear to be a couple bedrooms around the outer perimeter. There's a line of a couple tables and benches. There's a couple people sitting around. Look like they're in after a long day's work. Sitting at one of the tables is a young woman, fair to the eye. How do you pronounce your name, honey? Thalandarin? Yes. Thalandarin had heard... Hold on, there's somebody at the door.
Oh, there must be somebody else for the job.
I don't trust that person at the door. Be on your guard, Dax.
Counter's still out there, too.
Always.
Sorry.
Probably a solicitor.
A young woman, fair, pleasing to the eye, sitting at one of the tables, looks up as you walk in.
Don't go too crazy with the fair and pleasing to the eye.
So, Thalandarin, You come from a background of piracy, and you find yourself here in the city of Neverwinter, also down on your luck and looking for work. You had heard through the city rumor mill that the Rockseeker Mining League had rediscovered the legendary Wave Echo mines about 10 years ago, along with a band of adventurers. And the Lord's Alliance has been trusting adventurers ever since to guard the caravans going back and forth from the cities of Waterdeep and Neverwinter to the Wave Echo mine. And you showed up here early this morning before things got busy, hoping to be one of the first ones to sign your name to a contract. And so you're the first member of this party to have actually arrived. You've already gotten the briefing. You know you're supposed to meet a man named Renelus tomorrow morning at the cart, who is going to guide you out of the city and towards the town of Phandalin. So what brings you to this point? You find yourself in a city of Neverwinter, an elven pirate of all things. How did you come to this point?
Being a pirate, I don't really like to be on land that much. I'd rather be on a ship. But from what I understand, there's much more gold to be made and taken from these morons than can be taken out on the high seas at this point. So I'm going to see what I can get my hands on here.
All right, fair enough. Do you have any reaction to the two men who stroll in? Clearly, the newbies of this. You know, you have a good 6 or 8 hours of tenure over them in your service to the Lord's Alliance.
Awesome.
Well, that's the spirit. I'm ready to get going.
Yes, the party leader is also ready to get going.
I look around and be like, he must be in the other room.
Clearly, there needs to be a vote as to who becomes the party leader.
Clearly.
So at the back of this small hallway, there's a counter with a man wiping down the area, and he shouts out to you, "If you want to eat before you turn in, now's your last chance. Kitchen's going to be closing. All I got left is scraps. Got to get up early, so I recommend you get to bed with a full belly now."
Kind of rub my hands together and just kind of look at the others, shall we?
Absolutely. Let's eat.
I decline. I take a strip of beef jerky out of my sack and eat that.
I just kind of like narrow my eyes, like, so you're gonna burn through all your rations now, huh?
I don't trust that guy.
Okay, I'll take his bowl.
Okay. As you walk up to the counter, the guy gives you just kind of a smug sideways glance, and he pulls out a couple of bowls from behind the counter and dips a ladle into a pot and puts what can best be described as not too terrible smelling sludge into a bowl, slaps a couple spoons in there, and hands you the 3 bowls.
I just want to wink and say, "See you later," as I walk away.
He shakes his head and grunts and continues cleaning.
That's the spirit.
The others that were in the room when you first arrive, upon your arrival and seeing that the kitchen is closing down, they disappear into some side rooms. So at this point, it's just you in this basically glorified kitchen, and then there's a couple of sleeping chambers off of here on the east side, and other than that, you're kind of left on your own.
I'll grab my bowl and go sit in the corner.
Other than taking some dinner and getting a night or a few hours of shut-eye, does anybody have anything they need to get taken care of before moving forward?
No, I think I've got everything I need to kind of get going.
Yep, same.
I'm good.
Okay, the night passes uneventfully. You actually get a fairly good night's sleep. You find the beds to be comfortable. The rooms weren't very spacious, and didn't have great amenities, but it was a comfortable bed to sleep in. The noises of the city were well dampened back here, and you find yourself well prepared for the adventure ahead. As the three of you come out of your rooms in the morning, you join each other in the dining area, and based on the instructions that Philandrin were given the afternoon before, you make your way out the side door into the stables of the Lord's Alliance. That's where I need to find my character sheet. Okay, as you come out into the stables, there is a wagon sitting there, fully loaded. I mean, it is loaded to the point of tipping, and there's kind of a dour-looking man sitting with the reins in his hands. He looks up at you and kind of nods. I'm sitting here doing head motions, like you can see me. Kind of uses his head to urge you to come closer. And as you approach, he leans down. He says, "Name's Renelus. I don't say much. I just drive the wagon. You just let me do my job. You keep me from getting killed, and we'll all get along fine here. Fair?"
I love it. Let's get going.
Nice to meet you.
I kind of go for a high five, but I have a feeling he's not going to be pleased with that.
He's not the high fiving kind of guy.
I just put it through my hair and say, "Okay then."
So there's a seat on the bench next to him, and then there's a second bench on the wagon right behind him. You crawl up and take your spaces. As he's making some final checks, looking over what appears to be an inventory list, Red Knife comes out with 4 small pouches. He says, "All right, you lot, you ready for this? You put your name to paper, so from this point forward, you're responsible for the contents of this cart. Any loss or damage will come out of your pay on the other side, and if the loss exceeds your pay, you'll be expected to work it off. Understood?"
Well, you mean you don't have insurance on this thing?
You're my insurance. That's what you're getting paid for.
Touche.
All right, the wagon starts to roll out of the alleyway between the Lord's Alliance and what must be an inn or a tavern next door, and you come back out into the square where the carnival was in full swing the night before. Somewhere in the middle of the night, the festivities ended, and most of the carnival at this point is completely packed up and gone. And as such, the gate leading out of the city is completely backed up with carnival buggies and wagons and creatures and horses and people trying to get out of the city. So the city guard kind of holds you up a little bit, and as you sit there in the middle of the square for what was probably no more than an hour, but feels like half a day, you're watching the carnival all file out, among the last of the carnies being the old fortune teller that Dak saw the night before. After the carnies have had a chance to kind of clear the gates and clear the city guard reopens the gates and allows you to pass through. So the sun is getting high in the sky as you finally walk out of the gates of Waterdeep. You have 2 very sturdy but small pack ponies that are pulling this wagon. You don't know if they have names or not. You didn't ask. As you start plodding along the road to the east towards Phandalin, you've got about a week's journey in front of you. Before I move forward, does anybody have any action, comments, anything you want to do before anything happens that I make happen?
For right now, I don't have anything to say. Just want to have a very excited look on my face. Like you can tell, like I've been itching for a new adventure.
I'd like to have a bored look on my face, like I've done this 100 times.
So kind of like normal.
So like being at work.
Yeah.
So other travelers coming into the city give you kind of an odd look with an oddly grinning elf sitting in the front and a very stoic, bored-looking bald man who is devastatingly good-looking sitting on the back.
Can I just say, I'm not sure why we have to mention the bald part every month. That's okay.
This first one, then the other. He's handsome, but God, is he bald.
So bald.
Maybe he has that as a lifestyle choice, and it's not actually,
I mean, hey, he might. That's not. It doesn't say he chose to or didn't choose to. Either way, he's handsomely bald.
Is this the conversation that's going on?
Yeah.
Is this the conversation that's going on between you guys in the car?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, women can tell each other all the time. They don't have any problem saying, "Oh, you look so pretty today," and "Oh, your hair is beautiful." Guys can do it too.
Like,
You
your
look
lack
so
of hair
bald.
is beautiful.
It's a lifestyle choice, damn it.
Your choice of bald is beautiful.
I would be upset if I weren't so devastatingly handsome.
So far ahead of you, you can see the dust of the carnival caravan moving off into the distance, almost beyond your eyesight at this point. After a couple hours travel, you've grabbed some rations out of your food bags and had a quick lunch on the road. You can see coming up on your left against a copse of trees, there's what appears to be a wagon at an odd angle pulled off the side of the road to your left. At this point, maybe about 100, 125 yards away.
Let's check it out.
Okay.
Reynolds slows you down a little bit. He kind of reins back a little bit to slow the ponies down, and he eases your wagon over to the right side of the road so he can steer it around safely. As you approach, Dax, you recognize from the night before, this looks to be the Vistani gypsy wagon that you saw at the carnival the night before. It looks like maybe it's thrown an axle or busted a wheel or something and is rolled off the side of the road to the left. There's an old woman who just looks completely flustered and upset, doesn't know what to do with herself. She's flailing her hands in the air, cursing in some strange accent in a tongue that you can't understand. She has one of those short, squat oxen with the funny curved horns that looks like he's kind of stuck because the wagon's bent to the side and he can't go in any direction, and she just looks like she's having a horrible time of it. And she sees you approaching, but many wagons have passed in front of you and nobody has stopped to help, so she really doesn't give you any more attention, like there's any hope that you might help her either.
That language that she's speaking isn't Dwarvish, is it?
It is not Dwarvish.
Okay. I kind of gesture to the others, do we want to help her?
If I did accents and cool voices as a DM, which I don't, so don't ask, it would sound like she's babbling in it would sound like she's babbling in Romanian.
Got it. So she's a gypsy.
I'll help.
I'm indifferent.
I'll hop down too.
All right, Reynolds sighs, and as the wagon slows, you're already hopping down off. So he pulls it off into the grass to the right side of the road. So you're facing east on the right side of the road. There's a kind of a broad field, and he pulls your wagon into that field. To the left, there's a very narrow shoulder, and then a pretty dense tree line. And the wagon is gone. The gypsy wagon has gone off the side of the road. It's kind of up against a tree, and the ox can't move one way or the other. When you pull over and you start approaching the wagon, the woman stops her flailing and cursing in her strange language, and she walks up to the side of the road to greet you, and she, for the moment, she's just looking at you in silence, like she's either nervous or suspicious.
You said she's on the ground or she's standing?
She's standing. She's behind her wagon, standing
Okay.
on the side of the road, watching you approach.
I just want to ask her what happened in common.
She looks at you and she cocks her head to the side and she says, "Clearly I'm having a bad time of it. My wagon is old, my ox is older and no smarter, and I seem to have done some damage that are beyond my capabilities to fix. And none of the useless carnies that I travel with cared to help me. I think they're all too glad to see me left behind."
Can I make an investigation check and just kind of see, kind of quickly, does it look like she's carrying a lot or just some normal shit, anything expensive or anything like that?
Yeah, just make a straight intelligence check unless you want to use a specific skill.
Do I do anything besides click the dice, or does that it?
If you're doing an investigation check, you can just double click the die next to investigation, or you can drag it onto the chat bar if you want to be dramatic.
Oh, I see. So 18 plus 1.
Where did your roll go?
I don't know. I put it on the map, and then I think it went under it.
Oh no, do it in chat.
Oh, okay.
Get out of here with the 18 plus 1 business.
Damn, that would have been good. Just like anywhere in the chat window.
Yeah, or you can just double click the die that's there, and it'll automatically roll in there.
Yep, I see it.
Yikes.
3
That
plus
is
1. Ooh.
Much less good.
So, should we give him his 18 plus 1 now that this is his lesson on how to roll dice?
We can take the average if you want.
So what you're looking at is that the wagon has it looks like almost mushroom shaped. It's got kind of a rectangular bottom portion that's attached to the wagon, and the top is very much barrel shaped. It's painted with bright colors. At closer inspection, you can see that it looks like it's been painted over many times without being properly sanded down or cared for. It's really a rickety old wagon in rough shape. And if the woman's clothes are bright and flamboyant and look like maybe at one time they could have been beautiful, but again, at closer inspection, you can tell they've been patched and repatched and sewn. They're dirty, stained, and tattered. So, from a distance, her cart and her appearance look like they might be fine, but up close and personal, this is a woman that's been falling on some hard times.
Gotcha.
And the wagon is completely enclosed.
How do I use a skill?
If you go to your skills tab and you want to use a specific skill, the easiest way is to just double click on the die to the right of the skill.
Oh, okay.
So I want to look at it to see if it's something that I can.
I'll go over and talk to the bull.
Okay. The woman watches as you just, kind of in the middle of the greeting and conversation, you turn around, walk away from her, walk around the cart, and the bull is agitated. He's he's stuck. He can't move one way or the other. He's trying to pull the cart up onto the road, but he's basically trying to pull it sideways, stuck in a rut. So he's in a panic.
I put my hand out and soothe him.
All right, using your expert animal handling, he kind of rolls his eyes and looks in fear at first, but as you approach, he seems to sense that you don't mean him any harm, and he allows you to put your hand on his muzzle, and his breathing begins to slow, and he stops fighting against the reins. Meanwhile, at the rear of the cart, Reynolds is still sitting on the bench, staying largely uninvolved. Philanderin and Dax are at the back, and the woman walks up to Dax, who's the only one to have really spoken to her so far, and she holds out a frail hand and said, "I am Madam Eva. What are your intentions here today, traveler?"
I take her hand and I kind of like bow slightly. But basically, I just say, well, I was going to ask you if you needed help.
It's a rare thing for a wandering traveler to offer help to a stranger on the road. If it is help that you offer and your intentions are good, then I would gladly accept.
Absolutely. I kind of like lean around the cart and look at O'Neill and be like,
Okay.
"Are you done bullshitting, or did you want to come help us?"
Actually, O'Neill's efforts seemed to kind of be helpful, because as the bull was struggling, he was just kind of pulling the cart deeper, further off the road and deeper into the rut. And now that he's calmed down, you might actually be able to unhook the cart and see what you can do about getting it roadworthy again.
Oh, I didn't even realize it was still connected. I was just making a pun with bullshitting, but great job.
Okay, so I
Okay, so
Well,
I
you know,
rolled.
makes sense
I kind of
for
took a
just-
step back and was looking at the way the cart was wedged and the way the bull is, and he's handling the bull, and what can we do to actually get this thing back on the road? And
Give me 1 second, guys.
It's an interesting collection of noises going on in the background there.
Forget about it.
Sorry, my wife just called.
All right, so
We're good to go.
Philandrin, you're checking out the situation with the cart.
yeah, I figure one of them's got the bull under control. The other one's, keeping the lady calm, and I'll take a couple steps back and see if there's any, possible way of getting this thing unstuck and back on the road and getting her.
Yeah, so what it looks like happened is that the front left wheel looks like it must have bent sideways on its axle. Either it hit something or it's just old. And it just kind of, as the bull kept trying to pull it forward, it ended up dragging it sideways off the road. So at the very least, you're going to have to get the bull unhooked and see if you can get this thing straightened out. Then you might be able to straighten out the wheel for Madame Eva here.
Let's get to work on that boat.
You're talking to me. So you guys gonna set about trying to help her out?
Yeah, definitely.
Can you get the bull unhooked there, Oni?
All right. So I unhook the bull.
God, there's a lot of puns I could put in there. All right, you guys roll up your sleeves and you get to work. What looked like it could have been a quick fix ends up taking you most of the afternoon. You get the bull unhooked. A lot of other travelers pass up and down the road, and some of them slow down, call out to you, wave, show some curiosity, but nobody else on the road stops or offers to lend any help, so you're on your own in this. Madame Eva watches you with a curious smile on her face as she stands in the shade of the copse of trees that are behind her. With some struggling, you get the bull unhooked, and O'Neill is able to walk him over towards the tree line and keep him calm, while Dax and Philandrin force the cart back up onto the road. The axle is bent pretty bad, but it is metal, so nothing was cracked. And just with a lot of muscle work and pushing, and even eventually coaxing Renalus to come down off of his bench, you're able to straighten it out enough so that you can get it rolling forward and backwards in a pretty straight line. By about middle of the afternoon, you're hot, you're sweaty, you're dusty, and you're dirty, but you feel like you're ready to hook the bull back up to the cart and hopefully see Madame Eva on her way. Anyone? Anything? Keep going.
Yeah, I just give her a hearty wave.
Alright, as you're hooking her bull back up to the cart, Madame Eva comes up to each of you and touches you on the arm in turn, and whispers a couple words of thanks to you, and she looks deep into your eyes, and each of you just kind of get a strange feeling as she looks at you. Oh, great. Do you see any of those dice rolls, or did you just see the fact that dice did roll?
I just saw the fact that dice did roll.
Okay.
I didn't see anything, but I think it's because something's going on with my fantasy grounds. I might have to restart it.
No, I know the rolls are hidden from... I see a eyeball with a big cross through it on the dice roll, so I think that means they're hidden from you.
No, mine's not even like really. Oh, hang on, that might be better now.
So, Eva even walks over to Renelus and pats him on the arm. And when she has you kind of close together, she says, "There is danger on the road ahead of you, travelers. I urge you to stop for the night." Oh, what happened? Oh, cool. You're discovering the chat options.
Oh,
She
no,
says,
sorry, it's literally not letting me do the thing. Sorry.
She says, "Please, let me feed you tonight and let me speak to you before you go on your way. There's great danger on the road ahead of you, and I believe I might be able to help, because you have helped me."
I kind of look at the others and say, like, well, I'm never one to turn down a free meal.
Me neither.
Renelus sighs and he ties off the ponies across the road and grabs his bag, and he comes down and he sets it on the other side of Madame Eva's cart, and he places it down and he sits on it and makes himself comfortable as Madame Eva climbs up into the back of her cart, and with a rattle of pots and pans she brings some supplies out and begins to start a little cook fire as she hums to herself in some strange, oddly disconcerting but also comforting tune.
Do we have the food yet?
No, there's no food yet.
No.
I just saw Enrandio connection lost, waiting to reconnect.
Yeah, you can keep going. I'll just try to get it up in the background.
Yeah.
I just touched that.
So, the smell of strong spices begins to come out of Madame Eva's pot, and within short order, she has a thick but tasty smelling stew that she spoons out onto 4 plates and hands it out to each member of the party. As you dig in, you're reminded of the warmth of home, wherever that may be and however long it may have been since you have been at home. And Madame Eva doesn't take any food for herself, but she sits down on the ground among you and reaches into a bag that's at her side, and she pulls out what appears to, at first glance, to be a deck of cards. Looking each of you in the eye silently, in turn, she whispers, "Do you believe in fate, travelers?"
I do.
I kind of look just inquisitively.
I say there is no fate but what we make.
Ooh.
I've made my living all my life trusting in the fates, travelers, and I don't believe it's any accident that it was you who stopped by the side of the road to help me today. Your lives hang in the very balance, and I believe that if you didn't do this good deed and stop and help me today, that you may have not lived to see the sunrise tomorrow. Please, will you let me help you?
I shrug nonchalantly and nod to Dax.
I say definitely.
As she's talking, she's thumbing through the cards that she's holding in her hands, shuffling them. And she pulls out 5 wooden tiles, roughly the same size and shapes of the cards, and she lays them out in a pattern in the grass in front of her. That pattern.
Cool.
And pointing at Dax, she says, "You, come over here and sit to my left." And she gestures towards where card number 1 would be.
Okay.
And she takes you in her bony little hand and kind of leads you to sit in front of that. Philandrin, she looks at you and she says, "You, sit opposite of him," by where card number 3 would be. Dax, she ushers you to sit between them, where card number 2 would be. And since Renelus really didn't do much to help, she just kind of glowers at him and says, you can stay sitting there." Shuffling through the cards, she closes her eyes and she kind of hums to herself. And eventually, she stops her shuffling, reaches into the middle of the deck, grabs a card, and flips it open on the first tile in front of Dax. And this is the card she lays out before you.
Ooh.
So, the swashbuckler, the one of coins. This is a card for those who like money, yet they give it up freely. Likeable rogues and rapscallions they associate with the swashbuckler. She closes her eyes and she places her hand on the card, and she places her other hand, Dax, on your knee. She takes a deep breath and she opens her eyes and she looks at you, and in a grave whisper she says, "I see the skeleton of a deadly warrior lying on a bed of stone and flanked by gargoyles. Remember these words, traveler. You will need them on your journey ahead." And I will provide these words
Not
to you.
solemnly. Thank you.
She takes a deep breath and she wipes her hands together and she sighs and begins shuffling her deck again. She closes her eyes, reaches into the deck, and flips over another card, and she places it in front of O'Neill in the second position. The Thief, the Seven of Coins. This is a card favored by those who steal or burgle. Loss of property, beauty, innocence, friendship, or reputation. These are the things associated with the Thief. She leans over the pile of cards in the grass, and she places one hand on your knee, and she places the other hand on her card, and again she does her little meditation, and she opens her eyes and stares at you, O'Neill. She says, "What you seek lies at the crossroads of life and death, among the buried dead. Remember these words, traveler, for your life depends on it."
I just grunt. No, it's not a grunt. It's more like,
I don't want to be a thief.
Philandrin, she looks at you next. She goes through her little ritual of shuffling and breathing and closing her eyes. She reaches into the deck and flips a card onto tile number 3. That one. The illusionist, the Seven of Stars. Lies and deceit, grand conspiracies, secret societies, and the presence of a dupe or a saboteur. These are the things indicated by the illusionist. And she does her little ritual with her hand on your knee, and she rubs it a little bit uncomfortably. And she puts her other hand on the card, and when she's done with her breathing exercises, she opens her eyes and she looks at you and says, "A man is not what he seems. He comes here in a carnival wagon. Therein lies what you seek." And then she looks over her shoulder and she says, "No, not therein lies what you seek. The man's wagon. Remember that, traveler, for your life depends upon these words." Then she breathes for a moment, and she shakes out her hands, and she flips open a card and she places it in front of herself on tile number 4. And that's the card she flips over. As the 4th card flips over, she gasps, her eyes get wide, and she recoils backwards from it. "Ah," she says, "death. Disaster in the form of loss of wealth or property. A horrible defeat. Or the end of a bloodline." She places her hands on her own knees and she breathes deeply, and she says, "I see a dead man of noble birth, guarded by his widow. Return life to the dead man's corpse, and he will be your staunch ally. Remember these words, travelers, for your life depends upon them." She breathes, and she seems to be recovering from some sort of trance or some sort of brief ailment as a result of seeing the Horseman card, and she looks at each of you in turn, and she says, "You have an enemy, my friends, an enemy that you don't know, an enemy that you have not yet met, but an enemy that hates you and wants your destruction nevertheless. This final card will reveal that enemy to you and where you may find him." She reaches into the deck and she flips over a final card in the center. She's silent for a long time after looking at the final card, and you begin to wonder if she's gone into some kind of trance or fallen asleep, or if she's forgotten about you completely. And then finally she speaks. The imminent death of one rightly or wrongly convicted of a crime, false accusations, and unjust prosecution. These are the things associated with the executioner. I see a dark figure on a balcony looking down upon this tortured land with a twisted smile. That is your enemy. That is your doom. With that, she looks at each of you one more time, and just as if nothing had happened, not as if the last several minutes were weird or mystical, she just scoops up the cards, shuffles them back into her deck, and says, "Well then, I thank you again for your help, travelers. You're welcome to sleep by my cart tonight, or if you need to be on your way, I won't hold you up. But remember, Madam Eva, and remember the things that I told you this night."
Thank you, Madam Eva.
Yeah, I nod and say thank you.
I have just shared the card reading with you. You should be able to bring it up. Sean, can you click on notes and make sure that appears for you? Yep, there it is. So if you need to refer to that later, you can click on notes and you'll be able to see the card reading.
Oh, cool.
So the fire's beginning to burn low. It's at this point it's evening. The sky is starting to get dark, but if you choose to, there's still maybe a couple of hours of good travel time left. Madam Eva is cleaning her pots, scrubbing them out with some dried grass, and her attention seems to have drifted away from you. So do you wish
I look to the others and just kind of ask, do you want to keep going, or do you want to call it for right now and get a bright early start?
Mid-evening.
Let's ditch this joint.
You want to roll for another couple hours?
Yeah, we might as well. You said there's still a little bit of light looking out and everything?
Yeah, the sky's just starting to darken. The sun is dipped below the horizon, but there's still light in the sky.
Yeah, we can at least keep going for a little bit.
As the conversation even began to go in that direction before you came to any firm decision, Renelus was already walking across the street and untying the ponies and taking the brakes off the wheels and getting the cart ready to roll again. At some point while you were getting the cart ready to go, Madam Eva disappeared inside of her wagon and doesn't come out again before you begin to head towards the east once more. So as the cart pulls off the grass and back onto the gravel road, you travel in silence for a while, just kind of in a strange way, even though it was just kind of a weird superstition. The experience that you just had with Madam Eva seemed to touch upon some kind of creepy memories from your past, maybe something out of a dream, something that just felt uncomfortably familiar to you. Her words and the cards that she turned in front of each of you just give you a feeling of discomfort. Like, none of you can explain it. You just feel that there's something inherently wrong with what just happened to you that evening. So you continue along the road to the east. You lost quite a bit of travel time stopping to help Madam Eva, but you believe that you're satisfied that you did the right thing. And after maybe another 2 hours on the road, the woods are starting to close in to the left and right of the road. There are clearings here and there that are clearly frequently used by travelers, but it is starting to get full dark, and Renelus begins to slow the ponies down, and he calls over his shoulder, "I don't think it's safe to stay on the road too much later. Horses might throw a shoe or I might break an axle." What do you feel about calling it a night?
Good idea.
Yeah, it's probably best.
Okay, you end up actually going down the road for another mile or two before you find an empty clearing that's not already taken by a wagon or a family or a set of campers, and Renelus expertly steers the ponies off the road and into an opening that clearly has seen many campfires, and there's a little bit of trash strewn about here and there from previous travelers, but other than that, it's a comfortable clearing shaded from the wind where you can pull the cart between the opening and the road and get a good private night's sleep if you decide to set up camp here. So
Yeah, I like it for that.
Reynolds jumps down and he applies the wheel brakes to each of the wheels and begins brushing down the ponies. Do you want to set up any kind of watch or any camp specifics or anything before for nightfall?
Yeah, I definitely want to suggest setting up a watch, just because, I mean, so far it's been okay, but you never know what lurks in the darker parts of the forest. So I definitely think one of us should keep watch. We'll just do some shifts.
Let's get a fire going too.
Yeah, definitely.
There's plenty of tinder around. This is a frequently used campsite. So I won't make you guys roll to do any kind of survival skills or anything like that. With a little bit of teamwork, a little bit of effort, within a few minutes you've got a fire burning. Whatever you have with you, lean-tos, tents, or if you just want to lay out your bedrolls, you're able to set up a fairly comfortable and well private little campsite by the side of the road within less than 30 minutes. So what's your watch schedule going to look like?
I'll take first watch.
Yeah, I don't really need to sleep, so I don't mind taking one of the harder ones. If you guys, want to kind of take a better rest, I can just kind of meditate for a while during the first watch, and then I can stay up for the rest.
Okay.
But while we're getting cozy, I definitely wouldn't mind pulling out my ocarina and just playing a little tune, something kind of soft and
precious.
nothing heavy, just some little music. Oh yes.
Is it playing?
Yeah. What's it playing?
Oh, come on, I'm not hearing it. There we go. There's your ocarina.
I love it.
Okay, as you play, so I guess O'Neill has first watch, you've got the mid watch, Philanderon's got the morning watch. So as you play, Philanderon drifts off. She doesn't really need to fully sleep either, but she goes into her deep meditation. Eventually, through the playing, even though you don't need to sleep, you do need time to kind of focus your thoughts and meditate. So O'Neill is left on the watch.
I begin whittling.
You're whittling. You whittle for about 3 or 4 hours. Every once in a while, either somebody walks up the road or you hear a horse clop by or a wagon roll by slowly in the dark. Nobody disturbs your camp. As midnight approaches, you walk over to Dax and to nudge him to take the mid-watch, and you curl up on your bedroll, and in short order, you fall into a deep slumber. So Dax, while you're on watch, again, every once in a while you hear somebody walk up the road. You hear the rustle of branches and underbrush as critters scurry through the woods behind you. And you begin to have an uncomfortable feeling as you realize somehow time has passed and you don't really remember what happened for an extended period of time. You notice that the night has become unnaturally dark, much darker than it should be. You can still see that there's stars in the sky, but it's almost like they're shining through water. They're not as bright as they should be. Looking over, you realize that you can't even really see the woods around your campsite anymore. And as you look over to the cart, you can see tendrils of fog starting to creep in under the cart.
So not just like dark, there's something actually obscuring it.
Yeah, there's something obscuring it, but you can't, there's definitely a fog rolling in from the woods. Looking up into the sky, it's just like it's getting dimmer. You can't see anything in particular that's obscuring the sky. It's just you can't see it as well as you should, and you can't explain that, especially with your elven eyes.
Can I make an Arcana check and see if I recognize that this is magic?
Yes, go ahead.
Dang.
I'll take that.
Yeah, 19. Yeah, once you get your wits about you and you realize kind of what's going on, you kind of shake out, almost out of a stupor, like you were going to some kind of hypnosis or trance, and then you realize, wait a minute, something is definitely very wrong here, and you do sense a strong magic surrounding you. You can't sense the source, you can't tell what it is or where it's coming from, but whatever is happening to you right now, there's a very strong sense of magic to it, and a wrongness.
I want to cast Dancing Lights, just to kind of put these, like, just kind of cast the little balls of light around me, and then I want to wake up the others.
Okay, you go ahead and you cast Dancing Lights, and as you finish casting the spell, you see that the lights start twinkling around you, and it does add some light to the campsite, and things look a little bit more normal. However, you have a chill when you actually look at the lights themselves, and instead of just the twinkling lights that you would expect to see, they actually look like little skulls laughing, dancing around you, glowing.
Wait, where do you get the dancing light skill and everything?
Where what?
Where did you get dancing lights from?
In my actions, it's one of the cantrips I have. It's a spellcaster.
Yeah, he's a spell slinger. You beat shit up with swords.
Okay, so I don't get any of that stuff. I just need to hit shit with my sword. Okay.
Right. Like down the road, you can multi-class if you want to start learning some spells, but for right now, probably not. All right, yeah, I definitely want to wake up the others because I am thoroughly chilled.
Okay, you wake up the others. They wake up quickly and easily, but they kind of, when they first wake up, they just kind of start staring, almost like they're in a daze. And it takes them a minute to kind of snap out of it, and they same reaction you had. They're squinting at the sky, wondering what's wrong. They're rubbing their eyes, checking their vision, and over the course of the next minute or two, as everybody's rousing and starting to look around, you notice that the clearing is completely surrounded by this dense, thick, cold fog. You can't see the trees anymore. You can't even see the cart anymore. It's just the four of you standing completely surrounded by this dense fog.
I've explained, I mean, if they haven't seen, like, the skulls and stuff, like, I explain, hey, here's what I noticed, etc.
Like, this isn't normal.
Right.
I thought you already left, but okay, bye. So Renelus just puts his hand to his hip. He's got his mace there, and he just says, "By the gods!" And he looks at the sky, and he reaches out into the fog. He places one hand fully into the fog, and he doesn't pull it back like he's in pain, but he pulls it back and he flicks his hand like he's trying to get something filthy off of it, and he just has a look of disgust on his face.
I want to ready my daggers.
Okay, so Renelus has his weapon drawn. Philandrin has her daggers drawn.
Can I take like a torch out of the fire and kind of go towards it?
I move closer to the fire.
Okay, as you move closer to the fire, you look down and you realize that the fire, much like the dancing lights that were cast by Dax, also has a very macabre twist to it. The fire doesn't look like regular dancing flames, but it looks like screaming, tortured souls writhing back and forth on the logs, glowing, screaming in pain. They look like souls burning at your feet rather than a regular campfire.
I kick one of the logs.
You kick one of the logs, and the outcome isn't any different than kicking the logs of a regular fire. The ashes scatter, and there are sparks flying. The flames flicker. They maintain their ghastly shape, but they act like normal flames would if you kicked the fire.
I'll pick up a log that has fire in the end, kind of a torch, and move it towards the fog.
Okay, you move towards the fog, and the fog doesn't give way to the flame. It doesn't act like normal fog would. It's almost more like a barrier that's surrounding you. And after a few moments, you notice that there seems to be a deep, dull thrumming noise from within the fog. And after a couple seconds, you realize it's repetitive, almost like you're hearing a loud, distant heartbeat echoing through the fog.
You got a magic user, right?
I look at Dax and raise one eyebrow.
I look at Dax and raise the other eyebrow.
I look at them both and say, "This is no time for that." I said, "We've got to figure out what this fog is. Maybe later."
This seems super magical in body, so magic band. You should take.
You do
Yeah,
the same
I mean,
thing I do. You gotta hold it.
I definitely want to explain, like, it's some kind of magic, but I can't really pinpoint the source of it or anything. Like, I don't even know where it would be coming from.
I have
I'm gonna go ahead and take out both of my weapons as well.
perception.
Yeah, go ahead. Talk in chat so they can hear you. Okay, with
I'm
your
gonna-
weapons. Hold on, she's doing something.
I'm just kind of rolling for perception to see if I can tell what might be.
Alright, over the course of several minutes, you try to study the fog deeply. In addition to the thrumming noise, the rhythmic heartbeat noise that you hear coming out of the fog, you can sense more than see large shapes moving back and forth throughout the fog. Nothing that you can discern, nothing that you can put a name to, but as you see the fog seem to billow around you, it's almost like a gigantic creature is moving through the fog and causing it to move in that way. And every time that happens, it fills you with a sense of dread and foreboding.
So I have a bow and arrow. Should I kind of try to shoot?
I cast magic missile at the darkness.
I was actually going to say, can I cast Mage Hand and try to grab it?
Sure. Are you gonna shoot your bow, Philandrin, or are you gonna?
I mean, I was asking for, if that's what. Should I?
You can do what you want.
Yeah, should is always a tough one. I don't know if there's any wrong answers at this point.
As you're pondering what to do, the fog begins to change around you. It looks like it's just becoming denser and wetter, and as you look up, it looks like it's beginning to sink from the sky, almost like a cloud lowering itself on a rainy day. And over the course of several minutes, it's like the fog is just falling out of the sky, and as it comes down, it's all falling away from you. And as it gets down below the treetops, you can begin to see the trees again, but they're not the trees that surrounded you when you made camp the night before. What you're looking at now are old dead pines that are swaying, creaking back and forth in a wind that you can't sense. As the fog comes down even lower, you can see that somehow day has dawned, even though it doesn't seem like it's been long enough for day to dawn. But the sky isn't completely light. It's like a dead light coming from somewhere, and you can't see the sun, you can't see the moon. There's just like this weird dead light coming from the sky.
Are we in the Feywild?
You want to do like a knowledge or an arcana check or something like that?
Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, let's do Arcana. It wouldn't hurt.
Nice.
So as you watch the fog dissipate around you, from your study and experience, you can say, without a doubt, you are not in the Feywild. This is something much darker, much worse. Something rings in the back of your mind about the design of Madame Eva's cart and her clothing, and something about her outlandish claim to be a Vistani gypsy, who are supposedly a race of legend that don't really exist. Somehow that stands out in your mind, but you can't quite connect the pieces. And as the fog dissipates further and it reaches ground level and it pushes away, you can still sense that it's in the woods. But now that your cart and the ponies are uncovered, you notice to your horror that the ponies have died. Not only have the ponies died, but the cart has completely decayed, as if they had been left abandoned for 100 or more years. What's left of the cart is ruinous rubble that, there's nothing salvageable, and what's barely recognizable is what used to be the ponies look like ancient bones that have been rotting out in the wilderness for several decades.
I look to the others and say, so we're not getting paid for this job.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
So as the fog begins to fade completely away, except for the woods surrounding you, you take a look at your new surroundings.
I also want to look at what's his face's hand, because he touched the fog.
Oh, yeah.
Sure. So, all right, you can do the hand job in a minute. Black pools of water stand like dark mirrors in and around the muddy roadway. Giant trees loom on both sides of the road with their branches clawing at the mist. To your east, you can still see the fog off in the distance. As you come out of the clearing, supposedly the clearing where you went to bed last night, you're still on a road, but it's not the great road from Neverwinter to Phandalin. This is a road of black, thick mud, like it says, with pools of water in it. The trees to either side of the road are not the grand trees that were outside of Neverwinter. These are very imposing-looking pines, so dark green they're almost black. You can hear them creaking in the wind, even though you don't even feel the wind. Renalus looks around him, kind of in shock and awe, and he takes off his gloves and he flexes his fingers, and he kind of flicks his hand again like he's flicking something dirty off of him, but you don't see anything apparently wrong with his hand after his experience. And this is where you find yourself. What do you do? What do you do?
So we're still in the same area. Like, we can tell it's the same road and everything. It's just, it looks as though it's been decades and things are dead mostly, and that kind of black pools of water and everything.
No, you're definitely someplace completely different than where you went to bed last night.
Gotcha.
The only thing that was the same is the fact that you went to bed next to a cart with ponies and you woke up next to a cart with ponies.
Typical Friday, am I right, guys?
And there is a road.
I'm going to gather up my stuff.
Yeah,
I've already got my stuff gathered, and I start heading down the road.
Just down the road, I kind of not freak out, but just you can tell there's a little squeak in the voice. It's like, you're just gonna head down the road.
Let's see. Hold on. No, never mind. Yes, I nod to him and say, "Come on, let's go."
I mean, we've only really got one way to go, so we might as well.
Yeah, as you shuffle out onto the road, when you went to bed the night before, you were headed east out of Neverwinter towards Phandalin. The road to the east, as you stand right now, just kind of disappears into the wall of that creepy fog that consumed the ponies. The tree line to your north and south seem impassable. That apart from the fact that the fog lingers among the trees, so the only clear path ahead of you is the road to the west.
Before we get too far away, is there anything salvageable out of the cart, or is it gone and rotten away?
It's completely rotten.
Cool.
It's covered with fungus and mold, and the wood is like long dead wood. If you came across it in the woods and you kicked it, it just crumbles to dust under your foot.
All right, then I'm not even gonna touch it.
I'm off behind O'Neill. I got my daggers in hand.
So you begin to trudge down the road towards the west. The landscape doesn't change for quite some time. It seems like you've walked for a couple of hours before the path actually does finally start to widen to the west. And as you begin to approach, through the gloom, you see me trying to figure out how to update the map. Aha. Hold on.
I see something there.
Aha. Did something open?
I see a little gate thingy, maybe?
Yay! Okay. The fog spills out of the forest to swallow up the road behind you. Ahead, jutting from the impenetrable woods on both sides of the road, are high stone buttresses looming gray in the fog. There's the buttresses.
Whoa.
Very nice buttresses.
Thank you. Huge iron gates hang on the stonework. Dew clings with cold tenacity to the rusted bars. Two headless statues of armed guardians flank the gate, their heads now lying among the weeds at their feet. They greet you with only silence. This is the scene before you as you head to the west. What do you do?
I tell Dax and Delander, and I've heard of this place. This is called the Gates of Barovia.
Genius.
Have you been here?
I can't rightly remember. I lost my memory. It's part of my backstory.
Tragic, handsome backstory.
Tragic, handsome, not balding backstory.
That desperately balding but amazingly handsome backstory.
So are we going in?
I'm all for it. Point straight ahead and say, let's get in there.
Hold on, I want to try something. Ooh. Does it still say Gates of Barovia, or does it say unidentified image?
Unidentified map / image.
Oh, see, I gotta learn to do that before I share.
It's alright, I already identified it as the Gates of Barovia.
Welcome to the Gates of Barovia.
Well, it's like Disney World. I mean, it says it right on the gate. Welcome to Barovia.
As you approach the unidentified gates,
Nope, I've identified it already. Wrong.
they loom.
I just found it. We're calling it O'Neilvia.
Oh, look, I got a party thing, too. I forgot I had that.
It's got to pee.
Yeah, you gotta pee. As you approach the gates, they loom high overhead. The gates are closed, but as you get to within about 20 yards of them, with a loud booming noise, they crack open, and dust and rust fall from them as they slowly swing open, and they part inward and away from you, and they allow you to pass through to the west side of the gates.
We're expected.
I
go to
definitely
a
am
bow,
moving
after you
slowly
guys.
and cautiously forward.
Do you all cross the threshold? Renelus is hanging back with his hand on his mace.
I need to wait for an invite to be allowed in. Just kidding. I go in.
I'll turn around and ask Renelus what he's waiting for.
He watches Dax walk through the gates, and he shrugs and he sighs, and he strolls through also.
All right, I'm through.
As the last member of the party passes through the gates, from somewhere in the woods, or maybe from the sky, or maybe from the ground itself, you just hear a deep, throaty, ominous, bellowing chuckle, which I'm not going to do because it'll there you go.
I imagined it like Jabba the Hutt.
Exactly like Jabba the Hutt, and with unnatural speed that seems impossible for their size, the gates swing shut with a loud crash that booms across the forest, and you find yourself on the west side of the gates of unnamed, unknown origin, facing a longer road that disappears through the woods to the southwest. So, will you continue down the road, or try to get...
I want to be very, very alert while we're walking through, just like trying to take in a lot, seeing if I could recognize anything about the place, or just if it's calling anything to mind from like a story I may have heard in my travels, but just being very alert as we go through.
Cautiously continuing.
Also cautiously continuing.
Yeah, there is something unsettlingly familiar about these surroundings. You can't place it. A lot of what you're seeing just keeps bringing back to memory your time with Madame Eva. You just seem to know somehow in your guts that it's somehow related to the incidents of last night.
It's not like we have much of a choice. We need to keep trudging forward.
True.
So you trudge forward along the road for about another hour. Towering trees whose tops are lost in heavy gray mist block out all but death gray light. The tree trunks are unnaturally close to one another, and the woods have silence of a forgotten grave, yet they exude the feeling of an unvoiced scream. An unvoiced scream. I have too many windows open. Give me a second. Seriously, all four of you just failed that roll.
Tight. We all voiced the scream.
Do we all scream? Ice cream?
Dax and O'Neill.
Mm-hmm.
Damn it.
The anticipation's killing me.
Yeah.
Hopefully not for real.
You catch the scent of death on the air.
I turn around and I look at what's his name, Ronalyn?
Renelus.
And I'm like, good God, man.
You're blaming that on him?
I'm just saying, I don't know who else it could be. He's the one who touched the fog.
He looks at you and he puts his hands up in the air like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then as he's staring at you trying to figure out what's going on, realization sets in. He kind of sniffs and his nose wrinkles in disgust, and he begins walking south towards the road, and he comes to a point where the road kind of splits off a little ways, and there are a couple places where you can actually leave the road and for the first time go off into the woods. So this is where I ask you. It is now 9 o'clock. Do you want to continue to the next segment and possible encounter, or do you want to say, and next week?
I'm okay with either. It's kind of a good that way we don't get too wrapped up and end up needing to play for 2 more hours. So if this is a good stopping point, I'm okay with picking this up on Tuesday.
I think we're at a good stopping point, because if we move forward now, we're going to end up not wanting to stop for another 2 hours.
So let's go ahead and stop for this week then, I guess.
Okay.
All right.
I am so in, though. I'm just gotta tell you.
Oh, I'm
I was
glad.
like, oh, okay, cool. We're gonna play through Lost Mines of Phandelver, and I'm like, no, we're not.
No, you're not. All right, so I won't put it up publicly, but I did record this, so I'll put it I'll put it up on YouTube with a private link, so it's not public if you guys don't want to be public. And so, or if you want to share it with Erica, so you can say, "Haha, we're playing, you're not." And I guess I will see you guys in the morning, and we'll pick up right where we left off a week from today.
Sounds good
Sounds
to me.
good.
Cool, guys. Thanks for doing it.
everybody.
I've been looking forward to doing something like this for a long time, so
Me too. I'm really stoked for this campaign.
awesome.
Good
Yeah, thanks,
time.
guys.
All right.
All right.
See you in the
Good night,
morning.
everyone.
Bye.
Uh,
Good night.